Welcome everyone, and thank you for joining us for a special weekly webinar on the topic of planning for profit, understanding the power of leveraging your calendar. My name is Sierra Ladroma. I'm the project manager for the Iowa Center's Women's Business Center. The Iowa Center's Women's Business Center is funded in part through a cooperative agreement with the U.S. Small Business Administration. You will all receive a follow-up email after this event with a form to complete. Please do us a huge favor and take some time to fill this form out. This information allows us to continue providing free educational programming for small business owners in Iowa. Now, please take some time to locate the chat function on your Zoom screens so you can join the conversation by asking questions and or adding comments. Today's featured guest and presenter is Amy Hutchins, founder of MarketLogic. Amy brings her experience of working with Fortune 500 companies to others in a manner that provides a more focused environment to really hone in on the planning efforts that brands deserve. MarketLogic is the only consulting agency in the area that focuses solely on the planning process. Amy, thanks so much for being with us today. The screen is yours, my friend.
Okay. Hi, everybody. Let me do the technical stuff here and share my screen and get you something to look at other than my face. How about that? Okay. All right, I'm just getting set up here. And we are going to jump in if I can advance. Okay, well, hi. Again, I'm thrilled to be here today. I'll kick off and just take a few minutes to tell you a bit more about who I am and why I am here today with the honor and privilege of speaking to you all on this topic. Simply to give you a little perspective on me personally and my background in planning. So here's a little bit on who I am. I'm Amy Hutchins. I don't look like that headshot. I didn't prepare as much today for you all, but hopefully that's okay. I've lived in Des Moines since I was a little kid, although I hail from Jersey, just south of Philly, and I talk fast because that's what they do in Jersey, and that's where I learned to talk. So send a chat if you need me to slow down a bit today. I'm a Valley grad. I don't know if anybody's local, but I was at high school here, and then I ventured off to Marquette University back in 1994. So if you were doing that math in your head, I turned 45 this year. While there, I majored in marketing and public relations. I minored in sociology, stuck around there for a couple years, and then came back, got my master's in business from Drake, and decided to plant my professional feet here. So I am here. Fun little fact, I always like to share something quirky. When I was in Jersey, I was a BMX track racer. So that sort of fits in with my fast talking, I suppose. I have a wonderful family. We're local, we're in Beaverdale. My husband, Steve, that was our first time ever doing RAGBRAI together. We'd done it independently before, but it is a proud moment in life to say that we survived RAGBRAI together and are still married because it was really hot that summer. My daughter Lily, you see to the right there, she's going to be 14 this weekend. We are big nature lovers, travelers, campers. So that was on our way back from Glacier National Park not this past summer, but the summer before. Our pup Lollipop you see there, and then that's my mom, my dad, and my brother. So we're selfie ever, but I'm fortunate that we all actually stayed in Des Moines together, which I think is unique considering we all moved here from the East Coast. So that's a bit on who I am personally. On a professional front, MarketLogic is the consultancy that I operate today, and we are focused on sales and marketing and primarily in the planning space. So marketing is really what I've done my entire career, mostly in the agency world. So prior to branching out on my own, I was in the role of managing director at Two Rivers Marketing. And agency life is a bit crazy, which is why I'm bringing up my professional history just a bit, because it did provide me with over 20 years of learning to manage my calendar. And quite honestly, I associate managing a calendar with basically surviving life, both professionally and personally. So in my role, historically and present, but I'm using the agency as an example, in my role, I managed really big clients with really big expectations. I also managed a team of, gosh, it could depend anywhere from 20 to 40, team members, depending on where I was at what phase in my career. But a lot of them were were younger as well. And I had to calendar out every minute of my day in this agency space. And that is no joke, every single minute, not to mention my life outside of work, as we can all relate. So my notes for a day would not only include what had to be done for my clients and for the team, but also my family and my personal space. So I calendar or note things like get gas, buy dog food, feed child. I'm not kidding you. You know, all of those things were priorities in any given day. And we don't always think about writing those little things down, but if they're a life priority, they really should make their way into your calendar and list of things to do. So if I use agency life here as an example, a day in the life. So these are things that could pop up any given day. You start your day, it's planned out, you know what you want to have accomplished. It never really quite ends up that way. You might have a client calling and saying, you know, this quote's too high. I need you to reassess and get something back to me tomorrow. Okay. Another client call. We're going to have 30 people for lunch next week. Could you coordinate this and get billing to us? All right. Team member comes up. Hey, I saw Cheryl crying in the bathroom and I'm not sure if she's coming back to work today. Okay, I can handle that. Agency president might email and say, I need to run some financial forecasts and need your fourth quarter outlook by noon tomorrow. Okay, these are things that come in, and I expect fires to come up, you know, throughout any given day. But when you associate it with the impact that it has on your calendar, if we talk about the client quote, that could take realistically 30 minutes to figure out who on the team quoted it, what makes up the quote, you know, 30 minutes to come back, manage updates, and get back to the client. For lunch, okay, 5 minutes for me just to go, oh my gosh, why does this always land on my plate? Then 15 minutes to assign and out, inevitably answer questions, 15 minutes to update your meeting spot and coordinate space because you got a lot more people now. Poor Cheryl. I mean, this is like 30 minutes to go provide therapy to Cheryl in the bathroom, 30 minutes to, you know, take the time and understand what her deadlines are and get those reassigned because Cheryl's not coming back to work. And then 30 minutes to follow up with Cheryl and make sure she's okay and let her know that we're advancing things for her. Last but not least, the financials. And we break that time out here as well. Okay, so not something you're thinking about at the beginning of the day, but all of a sudden that's over 4 hours of your day that is not planned for. And you don't have a choice here. We just do what we have to do, but how we manage it all and how we stay on top of it all to make sure nothing falls through the cracks, you know, and especially as small business owners to make sure that we're still making money. So fires like this cost money because they cost time, and we need to plan for how we're going to make that time up. So we're going to talk about that a little bit, how to manage it all, how we leverage the power of a calendar to keep us both on track and profitable. So here is the agenda for the day, sort of what you all signed up for. As we sort of, I think it was part of the business description or the program description, but you know, we don't often think about time as our most important business resource. And as a small business owner, we should always be preaching this mantra because time is our most important resource. And the most effective way to manage your time is a calendar. I think we all know that, but we don't know that we actually plan for and abide by living life by a calendar. So here's what I promised to cover today. A little bit on why calendar, how to plan for your calendar, what should go in your calendar, ways to manage and prioritize, and then how to avoid anxiety and procrastination when dealing with your calendar. And then we'll kind of wrap with just a couple potential tools for you to use to advance your calendar. So I can't see you guys at all. It might be the setting that I have, but any questions to start, or anyone want to share a struggle that they're having in this space right now? I'll wait and see if anybody chimes in on chat, but otherwise give me the green light to keep chatting away. Okay, I'm going to keep talking. So let's start with why a calendar. So there's a little fun fact, a little did you know, that when you commit goals and actions to paper, and in this case, I'm correlating. Hi.
Hey, Amy. So there was a comment and it was
Yeah.
finding the right tool to keep track of my day or my to-do list.
Okay. So we are going to talk about tools, and I'm even going to share with you guys the way that I calendar. And it's going to probably look crazy, but it works for me. And that's going to be something that we talk about today, finding what works for you. So we'll definitely address that for you. Okay. All right. So if we look at this stat here, when you commit goals and actions to paper, in this case, I'm thinking paper as a calendar, however we might define calendar, and then you review those actions regularly, you get a 95% higher chance of achieving your desired outcomes. 95%, you guys, that's a really big deal, okay? So I wanna kind of share an example of how this has worked in my life and some proof that it does in fact work. So you see those little runner men there. I ran a marathon. Okay, I'm not sure if anybody on the call has ever done this, but I have to say, after having been through it, it's a really big deal because it's really hard and it's not easy at all. It takes dedication and it takes a huge time commitment, and it takes writing down your daily to-dos. So when people ask how I managed to pull this off, because for those who know me, know that I'm not just going to go run a marathon. So when people ask me how I did it, I always attribute it to a piece of paper. It was a piece of paper, and that piece of paper was put through the ringer during my 6 months of training. And this piece of paper told me when to run, when not to run, how far to run, what days to run. It was amazing. And it literally was one sheet of paper that I crumpled up and I carried around with me so I could look at it frequently to get a feel for what I needed to prepare myself for. It wasn't an app. It wasn't an online goal tracker. It was one sheet of paper. And guess what? I ran a marathon based on that piece of paper. And I wasn't a runner. I started running after I had a baby because I didn't have time to go to the gym anymore. And I ran a marathon because this piece of paper told me what I had to do every day in order to prepare for it. It was my daily to-dos. It was my calendar. And I closed the deal. And I worked hard because achieving your goals does take hard work, as we all know. But I'm not kidding. Without that sheet of paper, without those documented goals, without that list of to-dos, without that calendar, I would never have run. I would never have run that marathon. So how do we actually approach a calendar? Little pro tip, and I sort of hinted to this after the first question. You do you, okay? That's really important. You select your calendar, and calendar does not have to be literal. It can be a daily calendar, a monthly calendar. It could be a weekly calendar. It could be multiple calendars, meaning you might use a piece of paper and at the same time you're calendaring things, online through your Google Calendar or Outlook calendar. But regardless of which direction you go, you do you, because a calendar is completely pointless if you're not going to use it. So don't feel pressured to be cool. That never really worked for anyone. Shiny apps are awesome for some. They are not for me. I use an Excel spreadsheet. So actually, I'll show you guys that real quick because it's so scientifically uncool, but I have to toggle. And we'll look at this a couple times throughout today's presentation. So this is my calendar. This is the calendar, okay? I use an Excel spreadsheet. I color code. I shift things around. I have this actually saved on the Google Drive so that I can also access by my phone if I need to pull it up. It's not an app. It's not fancy software. And it's certainly not, what you might consider a basic calendar, but it is absolutely what works for me. And we'll look a little closer into my life through this particular document as we continue through our dialogue today. So tell me, does anybody want to share what your current calendaring method is? I would love to just hear what people are doing, and it sounds like others might be curious to understand what folks are doing as well. So I'm going to sit here quietly until we have somebody offer up a little insight here. And I don't know if I can, there we go.
You see them, Amy?
Yeah, I can see you.
So me personally, if it is not on my calendar, it's not happening.
Yeah.
So I have my calendar, my computer, all of that linked up. And if in person was to be like, hey, Sierra, let's meet at this time, I have to put it on the calendar.
So do you use like a legit calendar? Do you use an app? Is it
I use my Microsoft Outlook calendar.
Microsoft Outlook?
It's just linked onto my phone.
What about keeping track of everything you have to do in a day? That might not make a calendar block.
Oh,
but it's
girl,
on
that's right here.
Ha! Okay. And I think what people don't understand is that that is a part of your calendar. A calendar does not always have to literally be a calendar. Okay. It's about managing your time and your tasks and committing them to paper so that you actually get them done. Okay. So now what? All right. At some point, one of the first steps that you can do is figure out what works best for you, what that tool is. And hopefully this was at least a little insightful so that you understand when we say calendar, we don't always necessarily mean in the traditional sense. Okay. So you have your calendar. Now, what do? You need to populate, and then you need to look at and adjust every single day, you guys. And that is, that's really important to making sure that you stay on task and focused. And that is, shouldn't be seen as a burden to have to manage this every day. Once you really embrace the calendar life, as I guess we could call it, you actually look forward to sort of rolling up your sleeves and getting into your calendar on a daily basis, because it does help you feel organized and more secure about what you need to accomplish that day. So we will talk a little bit more about populating and filling in this calendar as we work through this next section. Okay, so now how do we actually determine what to put in the calendar? Here's the pro tip. It's everything, you guys. And we'll go back to mine here real quick because that's pretty much how I operate. Everything, every priority of my life makes my calendar. So as we sort of already talked about, I color code. I think color coding is really helpful for you to be able to understand the different kinds of things that are happening in your life in a given weekday, however you decide to calendar, more at a glance. Okay, so how I color code in my Excel spreadsheet is anything in orange is business related. Anything in this deep, it's technically purple, it looks black, but anything in purple is personal. It's my non-business life. And I have to write everything down that I want to get done. So for me, this is typing it in. This is me writing things down. When you are just so busy, as all of us are, it really is key to document what you have to do, no matter what it is, or it can be forgotten. And that never ends well for anybody. So for my week, if you look at my week, you see all these dates, and I'll talk you through this. Let me go back and look at Monday and explain. It might not look pretty to you guys, but Monday looks beautiful to me because everything's in green. Okay, here was my Monday. I get over dramatic sometimes when things don't go my way. That was my, okay, so this was my Monday. I always start with the client name. And my Monday did not look like this when I started. You see the name Kating a lot. That's a client of mine. And Kating ended up monopolizing most of my day. So when I started this day, Monday's list was a lot longer. And at the end of the day, by the end of the day, it sort of truncated down to what you see here, you know, on the screen. So I have what it is I need to work for. And then I have a quick hit note of what is it that has to get done. And this is what I pay most attention to. Then I have the date, so the day of the week that I need to advance this goal. You can see that's green. So for me, green is a beautiful thing because it means it was completed, and I get such satisfaction with that. That is how I end my day. Every day is closing out that particular day, marking it green or shifting it. Shifting is a big word in my life, and we'll talk more about that in just a moment. Everything, when I start my weeks, everything starts as gray or blue, and that is for me solely so I can separate the days. So it's just not one big laundry list. I can at a glance look and see where my day begins, where it ends, and then what is on the docket for the day after that. So something to demonstrate there. I have a little peachy color that I use, and the peach color means something is in progress. So I may have started it, but I didn't actually get it finished and I had to shift it back to a different day, but it gets a peach mark. So that way when I'm going out and looking at my week ahead or my very next day, I know that I have a couple things on the docket already that have already been started. Then I put the detailed notes over to the right. So with my aging brain, I don't keep track of things as well as maybe I once did. So these detailed notes might include anything from the last time I communicated with the client, what that communication said, maybe where I have that communication stored so I can quickly go back and access it as I need to. All that detail that, again, I can't, necessarily retain in my head anymore. Nothing, you guys, and this is important, and it'll help with the anxiety that we'll talk about a little bit too. Nothing is red. I never have red on my calendar because to me, red would mean like I failed, like I didn't get it done. Everything gets done eventually, even if it shifts. So there's that word again, and something we're gonna talk about a little bit more. So if you remember this pro tip, you can kind of tell just even from looking at my calendar, I populate it, then I look at it and I adjust it every single day. And that's how you ultimately get started. Schedule time every day. Start monthly. What I like to do is Sunday is kind of my like to get organized evening over a glass of wine, but start monthly. What are your big things that month that you need to accomplish and prioritize? And consider that your master calendar of sorts. Then start to fill in what needs to be done in order to make that happen. So it could be by week. In my case, as you saw, it's by day. But again, I look at it each Sunday. That's what works for me. And then I plan for the full week. So I have one day of planning my calendar, and it doesn't take long. One day of planning my calendar, and then every day from that point on, from that Monday to the next Sunday, I'm reviewing and adjusting it. Okay, so back to my calendar. If you look at Monday, as I mentioned, it kind of looks short, like maybe I didn't do a bunch of things that particular day. It didn't start that way. And the beauty of managing your calendar is that you are in control of changing it as you need to. So when you think back to those agency examples that I gave you early on, do you know how much would have had to shift on a day like that? A lot. Again, I had 8-9 hour day planned, and I have 4 hours of unexpected things come up. So what starts as one list, the beginning of any day, can look very different by the end of the day. And that is okay, because that is what managing your calendar is all about. Okay, so we're going to talk a little bit more about managing it and feeling comfortable being able to move things and shift things around. Here you see sanity, revenue, and more. These for me are what managing and prioritizing your calendar can really ultimately result in, okay? And they sort of go hand in glove. So if I'm not staying healthy, AKA sane, then I'm not going to be doing the best job for my business. And if I'm not doing the best job for my business, then I'm likely not generating the revenue that I'm hoping to generate. And at least if I am, it's not going to be happening for long. So for me, the management and prioritization of what I have to get done is really key to a peaceful mind and a profitable business. So if you feel organized, you act organized, and then you are organized. From the calendar guru himself, this quote always resonates with me, because the key is not to prioritize what's on your schedule, but to schedule your priorities. So this is important because I do feel like sometimes you feel guilty about what makes your priority list. So when I was back hovering over my calendar, you might have been sort of sneaking around and taking a peek at what I had in there. And you could have been thinking, okay, I know that I have a to-do today to pick up an ice cream cake. Okay, so you might be thinking, how did that make? If we're really scheduling priorities, how did picking up an ice cream cake make her priority list for this day? Okay, well, oh baby, I got a 14-year-old, soon to be 14-year-old on Sunday, very much a priority. And if I don't write that down, then it could be 9 p.m. the night before I need it, and suddenly I am completely out of luck. If anyone on this Zoom call knows me, I don't bake, so I rely on picking up treats from others. So that is a priority in my life. And those are the things that really can be added to your calendar. Our days are busy. I even put down things like my dinner notes. Okay, these are personal, should be treated just as equal priority as your business efforts, because if the ball drops in one area, the ball drops in the other. So you even see, you know, what's today? We're on January 14th. Look at all of my personal life I'm sharing with you guys. Thursday dinner. Okay, I put takeout today because I knew I was going to be busy today. Okay, so today's our day to support local and know that I'm getting takeout. But I need that because after we wrap up this call, I know now that I need to go place an order so that I can feed my family tonight. So again, the list for today, even today, when you look at what I have going on today, it doesn't look long. But if you look at it a little more closely, I have research calls this morning. So that was 3 hours of calls, 3 hours of my day already. So all the rest of the stuff on this list does in fact still need to get done. So after this call will be my moment in my day to look at my priorities, decide what can shift to tomorrow or to next week. And there is no shame in that. So shifting is my game, and it's really what helps me avoid anxiety in life. So I don't want anyone to really ever look at this list. I could be looking at this right now and feeling sort of helpless, like, oh my gosh, look at all the blue and peach that I still have left to tackle, right? There's a lot there. I don't have a lot of green, and my day's halfway over. And there was a moment in time where I would look at that and you just sort of freeze up. You know, it does cause anxiety. It can lead to procrastination. But once you get comfortable with the shifting game, then I think that anxiety and that procrastination really go away. So we're going to talk about that for just a minute or two. Biggest thing is just not to let it eat you alive. And when I say it is all those things that you don't get done that day, because God knows we are not superhuman, and sometimes we set unrealistic expectations for ourselves. And I think that's okay. I think it's okay to set those as long as you are willing to meet yourself in the middle and adjust and shift things as normal. So that's my pro tip for avoiding anxiety is don't panic, just shift. So shifting, I say that's a big word for me. I realize people might hear something other than shift, but shift is a big word for me. I already mentioned it's kind of my game, and that really is no joke. If I get to any point in my day, like today, where I have that realization that it's all going to get done, then I take action. So I don't sit there and stress about it. I don't sit there and freak out about it. I do something about it. I decide to shift versus freak. And what I like to do is I start big picture. So is the world going to end if I don't get this done? Okay, the answer is typically no. Well, I should say the answer is always no. The world is not going to end if you don't get something done. But then I go and I narrow it down a bit. I ask myself questions like, well, will I miss out on monthly billings if I don't get this done today? Will I upset a client if I don't get this done today? In my role, those are two really big things. Sometimes it's hard to keep revenue top of mind when you have your to-do list, but I do like to go back and ask myself that question. If I shift this, am I out of a potential billing this month? Because we need to make money to live and keep our business going. You also don't want to upset a client. So if we go back to my list, you guys, this is how I work it. Okay, so right now, talking to you guys, I realize I can't get this stuff done today. So what I then do is I go look at my Friday. Okay, I know I don't have as much going on Friday. So here's where I go and I start to shift. This is for me to write copy. I don't have to have that done today. So here, I'm already changing the date. I have a call with this person today that's staying. This is you guys, right? Look at me, I'm going green, okay? Because this is gonna be over as soon as we're off the call. I have this particular call tomorrow, but it's not till the afternoon. That can shift. My kid wants her ears pierced, that can shift. It's not a birthday. Whoops, it's not a birthday present. I shift it. I have to feed the family. I have to get this dang ice cream cake. This is due tomorrow, it stays. I can do that later. And I sort, right? I sort, and then all of a sudden my list is just so much shorter. And look at how the greens all come together. So what I have left to do after this call is not that much, okay? And that's how I work. That's how I lessen my anxiety. And after I'll call, I'll probably go back and shift even more. All right, it's still written down. It hasn't gone anywhere. I literally shifted it one day. So voila, shorter. But if you look here, prospecting, I even wrote the word prioritize next to it, okay? Because prospecting is what I procrastinate on more than anything. So not the area that you want to procrastinate, but it is the area that I procrastinate on. I have some learnings from over the years on how to help with that procrastination, which is basically the action of delaying or postponing something. And I know you all do it. If some of you actually are not procrastinators, I would love to buy a virtual coffee for you and sit and pick your brain a little bit. But from my perspective, it's something that most human beings do. So the first pro tip here is to schedule a procrastination hour. This is amazing. It is not my own idea. Another woman business owner shared this with me, and it was really life-changing. So my procrastination hour is Friday mornings, and I use Friday mornings. I intentionally do it on Friday mornings because it makes me feel better going into the weekend. All these things that have been sort of picking away at me all week, sometimes all month, suddenly get to go away. They get to turn green on my calendar as an example. So when we go back and we think about that prospecting list that I have, once our call's wrapped up, I will shift that to tomorrow because that's my area of procrastination, but I know that I have a dedicated hour set aside tomorrow. That is my procrastination hour. And I'll show it to you guys. I'll prove it. I have this time right here. And if you advance through my calendar, it's every Friday morning, okay? And I really try not to let anything else come in and take that over for me. So it is blocked week after week. Funny story. This was probably about a year ago. Well, COVID kind of throws me off a little bit, but back when we could go to events and I needed a name tag. So I would go to events and I would see everybody always had a name tag on, and it just makes introductions and everything a lot more easy to navigate. So all I wanted was a branded name tag to wear to events. And I had this on my calendar, on my Excel spreadsheet, that's my calendar. I had it on there for months and months, and it drove me nuts because I wanted it, but for whatever reason, I could not just make it happen. It was like the biggest area of procrastination for me. So then I met this woman, we had this dialogue. I blocked my Friday procrastination hours off on my calendar. And the very first thing that I did during my first calendar block was order that damn name tag. And it took me 10 minutes, you guys. That was it, 10 minutes, but months of stress because I just wasn't getting it done. So calendar that procrastination hour every week. It's life-changing, and it doesn't have to just be for your business stuff. That's probably when I'll fit in that ear piercing for my daughter as well, because I've been pushing that back all week. Okay, another pro tip. Break it down into bite-sized chunks. Hugely, hugely helpful. So when I think back to that prospect list that I just had up on the screen from my to-do list, even for tomorrow, I know what's on that. So even for tomorrow, that stresses me out just a little bit. Okay, so what I know I need to do is go back to that list, and I need to pick like 3 priority prospects, 2 to 3 priority prospects that I am going to either reach out to or plan for accordingly. And when I ask myself those questions, guess what? The world's not going to end if I don't reach out to every single person on that list. I am still advancing potential billings because I'm reaching out to some potential clients. Reaching out to a couple is better than putting that whole list aside to next week, and then again the week after, and then again the week after. If I break it down and I tell myself, okay, just 2 tomorrow, that's all you need to do, Amy, just reach out to 2 people, much more palatable. My third rule of thumb there was, is it gonna upset any clients? Well, no, because they're not clients and nobody's gonna know that I plan to reach out to them. So if I didn't, what's the difference, right? So it meets my criteria. It's okay to technically break that list into smaller chunks and shift some to what will end up being the following week. Make sense? Okay, so someone asked about tools, and you can, I think the best way to see the full variety of tools available to you is not so much to search for calendaring tools, but more like project management tools. That's what I would suggest searching for. But again, I just want you to remember that sort of first pro tip, that first rule of thumb, which is you do you. Find something that you know you will use and then use that. This is, doesn't even scratch the surface at all. I just wanted to show you some variety in what you can be using. We have our traditional calendar, and define traditional. These days a traditional calendar is probably where your Google and your Outlook calendars would fall into place. But if we're going old school traditional, it could be your flip calendar. It can be a daily planning book. I am still so disappointed that the Franklin Coveys went away, because that was how I managed my life for, a decade, if not more. So my Excel spreadsheet is now my electronic version of the Franklin Covey that, a lot of us used to have, if you're my age, a long time ago. So whether it's a piece of paper or it's your Google Calendar, or it's a combination of these more simple tools, find what works for you. I had to put Excel up here because that has just been my way of managing life and reducing that anxiety and stress and staying on task. Asana, I don't know if anybody on the call uses Asana, but if somebody does and someone's interested in it, then I would suggest definitely connecting after this call. So Asana is a web and mobile app for teams. This is just one example. That's where if you go out and you search like project management tools, things of that nature, you're going to see Asana plus many more pop up. And these are ways to stay focused and stay calendared online. You also can look at things like scheduling platforms. It really depends on your business. Calendly is one. So if you're one that schedules a lot of meetings and that's something that you have a hard time managing, then this is a scheduling platform that integrates with your calendar. So all you need to do is send a link out to someone. They can click on it and they pick the time on your calendar that works best for them based on what you are showing available to them. So that is where we are. I have a bunch of notifications popping up. I don't know if that means people have questions, but I'm wrapping up here. And if anybody does want to chat or just share some of the challenges that you're having, then we can certainly do that when we're done here. So one final review, and if this gets sent out to you guys afterwards, you'll have it, and the Asana and Calendly actually link out to the websites as well. So just in review, write things down. You're going to do better at achieving your goals, and your goals as a small business owner unfortunately have to be focused on revenue. So I really encourage you to find a way to calendar and find the tool that works for you. And remember to you do you. When you're filling in your calendar, truly populate everything, all of your priorities. And the biggest tip that I feel I can share today is to look at that calendar and adjust it every single day, and don't have any guilt about adjusting it. Okay, it's your calendar, you own it, you know what works best for you. Managing and prioritizing, just make sure you're scheduling your priorities and not necessarily prioritizing what's on your schedule. I really do love that quote. And my favorite, don't panic, just shift. Shift things as needed and break them down into smaller size bites so that you don't feel so inclined to continue to push them off. So that's what I have today, you guys. We're done early because I do, again, probably talk a little too fast, but I would love to see, I don't know if we can see faces or not, but just to kind of meet you guys and hear what your business is about and any struggles that you're having in this space.
If anyone does want to show face or turn on their mics, let me know in the chat, and then I could upgrade you to be a panelist.
I know that when you're not planning for it, everybody's like, heck no, not turning my video on.
So Amy, I use Calendly, and we use Asana as well as Iowa Center for, it's just
so funny. Yeah, they're common. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it's so nice to just mark off your task, right? And assign tasks. really user-friendly.
Mm-hmm.
I would like to know, what apps do people use on their phones outside of their calendars for a to-do list?
Does
I know
anybody on the use an app? Like I said, I don't use an app. I just make sure I have everything out on the Google Drive so that I can access it from my phone. I know a lot of people use notes just to jot their notes down, but I'm not sure about if anybody else might use an app. I think apps are often sort of a wish list for people, like, oh, if I get an app, and I'm not making a general statement here, but, oh, if I get an app, my world is going to be so much more organized and I'll be able to get things done faster and quicker. And I thought that way, and I did try, I did try Asana, and Asana is a really slick tool, but it just wasn't for me. It wasn't for me. I went back to my Excel spreadsheet.
I think it goes back to your you do you, because we get to
Yep.
find what option works best for us. And if
Mhm.
it's Excel, or for me, I write down my intentions for the day and I plug it into the calendar, right?
Yeah, absolutely. But again, I think you could just simply Google like the top 10 project I would go with project management, like project management apps or top 10 calendaring apps. And you can really dig in and learn a lot there. A lot of these places, if you go out and visit their website, there'll be a video that sort of helps you understand how it works. The videos are hugely helpful to kind of start with. And then I think it's just important to understand if you have to pay for it or if it's free. And if it's free, what are some of the features that maybe don't come with the free version that I really feel like I would need if I'm going to, actually set up an app for this kind of thing. So it's really research, guys. It's going out, understanding what's trending right now, looking at user reviews, reading user comments, and again, finding that right fit.
So Amy, we have two questions. One from Sheila that says, hi, Amy, can you repeat what you said about your Google Drive?
Absolutely. And I see a couple questions in here too. I finally was able to pull up that chat. So the Google Drive, what I love about the Google Drive is that it's free and it backs up your work, and it's in the cloud. So that Excel spreadsheet, let me go out here real quick. If you look at that document, this is what it means to be in the Google Cloud. It kind of looks a little bit different. You can set up all sorts of folders. This is free. It's the Google Drive. You can set up folders. You can do PowerPoints, Excel, Word documents. You can put images out here, and it's shareable. I don't share my to-do list out, but it is shareable. So it's nice if you are working with clients. I have folders set up for all of my different clients, and if whether it's drafting something for them, putting a plan together for them, I just link out. I send them a link to that Google Drive folder, and then they can go out there, they can edit in it. Well, it's kind of like your to-do list. So if I'm sitting in the school pickup line, waiting for my child, and I want to take time and look at my calendar to see what's left on my day, then I can go out to my phone, because you can get an app that connects you to your Google Drive, and I can pull it up and I can edit that from my phone. And that's what the Google Drive is it lives in the cloud. You can share it with other people, anything that you store in there. Plus you can access, and it's a good backup. So even just yesterday when I was working on some notes for this PowerPoint, I did not create this on the Google Drive, and I should have, because it crashed and I ended up losing a lot of work. But if I had done that on the Google Drive, that wouldn't happen. So I see someone was asking, how long did it take for you to begin checking Excel multiple times a day? It's so funny. I've been doing this for so long that I don't know when I finally actually got into my groove, but it is such a part of my life. I would say on a daily basis, and I am in front of my desk a lot these days, that is pulled up. It's always pulled up. It's always on my top navigation. And I probably look at it 10 to 15 times a day. And why that is because I was talking earlier, and I'm not kidding you guys, this aging thing gets rough because I don't retain information like I once did. So if I have an email that comes in from a client and they're like, hey, this looks great, but could you also send me this? The first thing I do is I go to my Excel document. I don't write it on a, scratch piece of paper. I go to my Excel document. I kind of understand when she needs it by, she or he needs it by. I go out and I add a new line and I put a date by it. And then I don't wake up in a panic at night thinking, oh my gosh, she asked me for this. Did I forget to do it? Well, I know I'm not going to forget because I know it's on my list. So even if it wasn't on my list for that day, I know it's there for like whether it's the next day or 2 days out. So eventually it just becomes the norm, and I do it. That is how often I look at it every day, because I'm adding to it, I'm shifting, I'm augmenting, and then I'm marking green when I can, which I love. I see, let me make sure. I see people were saying Microsoft Outlook, calendar, planner pad.
I have another question that just got typed into the chat.
Yeah, I'm sharing this. Notebook and mechanical pencil, love it. Can you apply, here's one, can you apply the same formula to long-term future goals planning? Or do you find that there are different challenges associated with that type of time management? How do you handle feeling overwhelmed by those large picture items that start to pile up? So I manage my long-term planning the same way that I do my daily, but to clarify that, each month I start annually, I set annual goals. Okay, so as I kick off the new year, I sort of say, what do I want my business to look like this year? Is it growth? Is it maintenance? Whatever those goals look like. But then as I start to plan out each month and what I need to do, I use that Excel spreadsheet. So every now and then I do go back and I look at my long-term goals for the year to make sure that I'm staying on track, because it's so easy to lose focus. But I use that Excel. That's exactly how I use that Excel document. Everything on that list is helping me get to goals that I've set for the business. And then of course you saw that I have personal stuff sprinkled in. And when it comes to feeling overwhelmed by those big picture items, honestly, that is the breaking it down. So you saw on my list, I had this one big topic of prospecting, okay, because I have growth goals this year. So if I don't go out and prospect, I can't just expect business to magically come my way, although that would be lovely. So prospecting in general, generating sales, that's one of those big picture items that I have to even do better of recognizing you don't have to do that all at once. So what I just shared with you, that's a big picture goal. I need to break it down. I need to update my calendar to reflect that I'm going to reach out to 2 new prospects a week. And that doesn't mean getting a meeting. That means linking with somebody on LinkedIn. Okay. That means potentially sending an email. And that's how I think you have to handle not feeling overwhelmed. You're not doing it. You're just breaking it down into smaller chunks.
Amy, thank you so much for spending your time
with us. Thank you guys. Yes. Thank you for sitting in. Okay.
Well, have a good day.
See you later. Bye. Bye-bye.